Margaret, welcome to Living Your Big Bold Life. It is such an honor to have you here. And I know I have butchered your beautiful Icelandic name. Welcome. I need you to correct it for me, please.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I go by anything at this point. I've lived in so many different countries, so you can call me Lisa if you want. So it's fine.
Well, it's funny because I work, as you know, in a mostly male industry. And so
Yeah.
Brett is a weird enough name as it is, but my
Right.
name in like everything is Brett. They assume I'm a man and they name me Brett. And Brett is a
Oh
very good
no.
name, but that's usually my name. And so I can relate to this. However, I wish I could do a better job. So Margaret, without further ado, I just am so excited for our guests to hear your story. I have followed you
Right.
for
Good.
some time, and you're a mom. You have lived in many different countries. You have had all these experiences, but what I glean from your story is just something that I believe is super approachable, doable, and something where someone is going to listen to this and go, I know it's going to take work and it's not going to be always easy, but I can do this. Like I can do this. And
Absolutely.
that's what I want the listeners to hear from your
Yeah.
story is that,
Yeah.
you know, you and I think were similar where there was probably a lot of years where we tried all the things, nothing was working. And we kind of just like thought that this was how it was going to be on our health. We were just going to kind of be
Yeah.
in this okay state. And
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
anxious for you to share about your journey. But before we dive into the health and the fasting and the exercise and all the things, tell me
Yeah.
about where you're from, where you live today, your children, all the things.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm Margaret, and I am 30 years old. I'm from Iceland originally,
Okay.
but I've lived in London. I lived in London for 5 years, and I met my now partner, and he's Irish. So now we're living over in Ireland, and yeah, we had three. So we had our first two in London. Uh, we had three under the age of. We had 3 and 3 years basically, and
Wow.
yeah, quite yeah. You can relate to what that's like. So yeah, we had the first two over in London, and then we had our third after we moved to Ireland. Just we didn't want to raise three small children in London. So and there was a house. We had a house here, so it just made more sense to move over to Ireland. And yeah, so we have our oldest. She's just turned 4, and then we have our Patrick. He's in the middle. He's 2.5. He's going to be 3 in October, and then we have our Anna. She just turned 1. So yeah, we've lived here now for 2 years, and yeah, that's we've been endless lockdown. I think Ireland had the longest lockdown in all of Europe. I think it was something crazy
Wow.
like that. Yeah, so I've gone through this whole journey basically in lockdown, and it's been an experience, like life changing. Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
interesting is that a lot of people during this time really struggled with their health and really struggled with what normally had worked for them, whether it was going to the
Yeah.
gym, counting this,
Yeah.
doing this. And what I think is really interesting about your story is that a lot of your journey started during this time of lockdown and
Yeah.
you were successful on your journey and you've made
Yeah.
great strides, and that to me is huge. But gosh, I just think so many people have just dismissed it and been like, well, I it was COVID
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah. The
lockdown and
COVID
COVID-19.
pants.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
so now in your on your health journey, so you have 3 kids, 3 and under. You
Yeah.
you've been
Four
in
and under now.
4 and under. Oh my gosh. And
Yeah.
now on your health journey, when did you kind of start saying like, okay, this is my moment. I need to kind of retake back my health. What was the
Yeah.
catalyst behind that and why?
Yeah. So I knew like I knew I had sort of lost grip of my health because motherhood sort of hit me quite hard.
Mhm.
And with my firstborn, I had a difficult time getting her into the world. It was a very, very long birth, and I was in pain for a very, very long time, and it sort of hit me quite hard. But I never sort of dealt with it because I was never in danger. She was never in any danger, and it was sort of like it was something that I never dealt with fully, and I just I just ate and ate and ate and ate. I food has always sort of been my answer to everything. Sort of
Mhm. Yeah.
happiness, sadness, stress, anything. Like it's just food. It was the answer. So I sort of put my emotions to the side and just sort of didn't deal with them, in a way. So I knew this, this whole emotional eating was a problem, and it has been a problem for me for a long time. So I had these 3 pregnancies in 3 years, and there was a lot of sleepless nights. My daughter, she never slept through the night until she was like a year and a half, and it would just be it was a this it was I was abusing food. It was like being an alcoholic but with food. Do you know what I mean? Like so um it was sort of um when I was awake, entire nights with her, I would be thinking like, oh, I'm going to order a pizza tomorrow and I'm just going to eat the whole thing. And, that sort of got, it's crazy, but that sort of got me through the night, or, it was just, yeah. And I knew this was a problem a bit bigger than myself. And I knew I needed to deal with this. And then I got pregnant again, and then I got pregnant again, and I had 3 in 3 years, obviously. And what really sort of shook me was we had sort of a newborn photo shoot with
Mhm.
for my youngest. She was born in June 2020. And we got a photographer. That was sort of when the restrictions were sort of lifted a little bit, and you could sort of you're allowed to have one person over to your house or whatever. She had a face mask and all that.
Right.
And so the pictures were, they were stunning, but I was really shocked at how big I looked, because when you're that overweight, you sort of, you hide away from photographs, and you sort of, you put a baby, on your lap so it covers up your stomach, and
Yeah, like
it's just,
yes.
do you know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, and I think it's different seeing yourself in the mirror and then seeing yourself on a picture that a professional photographer took.
Right.
Like, and seeing those photographs was really like, I knew that I needed to get a handle on my weight, and I needed to get a handle on this whole attitude with food. I knew that needed to happen, but seeing the pictures really like, okay, this needs to happen. I'm not going to live my life like that.
Yeah, those
So
moments,
yeah,
those cattle, those every, it's interesting. Almost everyone I talk to has that moment. Like there is a
seeing a
moment.
picture.
Yes,
Mm,
and it's interesting. Whatever that moment is, it's like this pretty big turning point for them where they're like, I may not know what it is. I may not know how, but something I've got to change. I've got to fix something.
yes.
And so now, do you feel that a lot of moms who are kind of in those early years of with children, having babies. Don't you think
Yeah,
a lot of moms can relate to what you're saying? And I really hear it especially that you had kind of a traumatic, uh, kind of sounds like Anna postpartum issues after your first. I hear that a
this,
lot
yeah.
too, and I think that
Hmm.
is much more common, but it's not overly talked about. And
No, because it's sort of,
yeah,
it's hard to talk about it. Back
yes,
then I wouldn't be able to talk about it, but now that I'm out of it, it's sort of easier to talk about it because you sort of close yourself off, especially because you're so tired, especially like when, you have a child when it has sleep problems and, you're trying to breastfeed and
oh
um,
yes,
she was, she would only want the breast, but
yeah,
she wasn't gaining enough weight because I was totally exhausted and I was milking enough. It was just this, this thing that spiraled out of control, and she wouldn't want to take a bottle, and she wouldn't take a, like we call it I did that in Iceland, but you call it a pacifier.
yes, yes.
She'd use me basically as a pacifier, and
Mhm.
so she'd had to soothe all the time on the
Yeah.
breast, and it was so, obviously it's amazing becoming a mum, and you love your baby, but then there's this whole other side to it where a lot of moms struggle, and you don't want to talk about the struggles because you're supposed to be so happy that you have a baby, and you're so fortunate, and it's yeah, I think, yeah, I think a lot of mums do, have these problems where they sort of put themselves to the side, I guess, and they need to focus so much on the baby
Mhm.
and put
And it
themselves
cascades.
last.
And it cascades
Yes.
because
Yeah.
you're you're tired, you're stressed, and we all know more
Yeah.
and more research is coming out that if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're stressed out to the max, then if you're
Hmm.
dealing with breastfeeding, all the other new mom kind of stresses, that then your breast milk production goes down, and then you feel bad about
Everything
that.
goes against you. Yeah.
Yes, and then you're like, well, do I
Yeah.
need to eat more? And you're already struggling with these hormonal cravings. You're
Yes.
starving. Like, I always tell moms it's so normal to be way hungrier breastfeeding than it is pregnant. I always was like
Absolutely.
ravenous, right? Just like
Yeah.
give me. And when you're talking about that pizza, I bet some of that was, yes, your history of struggling with your food relationship, but also
Hmm.
some of that was your hormones were
Starving.
going,
Yeah.
yeah, just telling you I'm starving,
Hmm.
and nothing was signaling correctly, but your brain was
No,
telling you when you ate that pizza, even for a short amount of time, you got that
you're
kind
gonna
of
feel
dopamine
good.
hit. Yeah, I'm going to
That's
feel
it.
good.
Yeah.
But that feel good doesn't last very long. So then your brain's like, okay, cause that pizza you gave me,
Let's
that
get more of
let's
that.
more of that, because for a moment I felt I had this hit. So
Yeah.
you've had your third, you get these newborn baby photos.
Yeah.
You had told me that you've kind of had a history of trying all the things. Where did you
Yeah.
start? Where did you start? What were you going to do once you were like, I need to change something? What did you do?
Yeah. So, like before, like since, I've always been overweight. More than half of my life since I was a teenager, I've never been at a normal BMI, whatever that is. But
Yeah.
like I've never been a normal weight, and it's always been like I've always been, going on a diet or coming off a diet, and like I've done like the shakes, and I've done the, weighing my food, and putting it into an app and telling me how many calories I've done, and um, all these crazy things. I had like a food delivery service that was like little packaged food that you're supposed to put in the microwave and get a whole week sent at a time. Oh, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
Like it was, yeah. And so this time around, I knew that I had to do, and I sort of like, okay, what am I going to do this time around? I've done it all. Nothing's ever worked really. Like nothing's been sustainable. And a friend of mine done fasting, and that was sort of in the back of my mind, and I didn't really buy into it at the first because I thought, what is this? How is this? You eat in a certain time frame. Why is that gonna make you lose weight? Like I don't get it. Like are you not just gonna overeat in that time frame? And and so I think, okay, like I've nothing to lose here. Well, I have lots to lose,
Yeah.
but why not just try this one more thing? And yeah, and so I started with 18.6, and I thought I was doing clean fasting. I was doing like a bit of stevia in my black coffee, and I was having the occasional like diet cokes and stuff like that. But I
Mm-hmm.
still lost weight, but it was harder. Obviously, like now you and me, we know about the clean fast, and it's easier. But yeah, and it really surprised me how the weight started to fall off really, really fast in the beginning, and I think, oh, this is interesting. And it's not overly like I've never been a breakfast eater. Well, like I've always ate breakfast, thinking that I was doing the right thing, but
Same.
I always felt really bad after eating breakfast.
Right.
You know, so that sort of ignoring what my body was saying. This has been my whole life. I've always felt really bad in my body after eating breakfast, but I had it anyway, thinking that I was, I would be doing something bad if I didn't have it.
Right.
So I already didn't like having breakfast. So I think, oh, this is fine. Like I don't mind just staying fasted till noon and then having something at noon and then having a dinner and then be done with it.
Right.
And evenings were actually a bit harder for me because I used to eat a lot, when the kids are in bed and over a Netflix film or whatever. So evenings were definitely harder than the mornings for me in at the start. And yeah, I just started that, and I was really surprised by how well it worked. And then I sort of started to do more research about it. I started listening to Jen Stevens' intermittent fasting stories, and I've listened to a lot of them. I listened to your story on there, and yeah, it was just amazing. And I thought I tried this clean fasting and take the stevia out and take the diet cokes out, and
Right.
things just started to run so smoothly, and it was so easy to do it.
I
And
know
yeah,
we sound like a broken record when we
I
tell
know.
people that we right, but really we're telling you that most of us had results when we weren't clean fasting. We did have some results. We're not trying to
Yeah.
say that you can't have no results, but over and
And I
over
had
again,
loads to lose as well. Like I was
right?
very overweight. So um people that have maybe very little to lose, I think it's very important that they start off with a clean fast. Sorry, you were saying. Go
No, no,
ahead.
but I think that's a really important point that you state that because
Yeah.
depending on where you're at in your journey, let's be honest, if you have a lot to lose, certain tools are going to work then that may not work later. And
That's
I
it.
think,
Yeah.
what we all want for you is to have the easiest and best results. And that's why,
Yeah.
Margaret and I are like, just clean
Clean
fast,
fast,
trust us. It
please.
does make it easier. And we
Yeah.
all know how yummy
Long
a diet
term,
Coke can
yeah.
be and our
Save it for
stevia.
your window. Exactly. Yeah. Save it for your window.
So
Yeah.
you're doing 18.6. So
Yeah.
for the listeners out there that are maybe newer to fasting, that means that Margaret was fasting for 18 hours and then she was eating within a 6-hour window. And when she references clean fasting, I know for the advanced fasters out there, they hear this term thrown around a lot, but that just means outside of that 6 hours, she's only having water, sparkling water, black coffee, unflavored black coffee, black tea, unflavored, green tea, unflavored. That's all she can have. So she can't have like a LaCroix with the the grapefruit essence. She's not having some cream in her coffee, some oat milk in her coffee. She's not having just a little bit of stevia. Effectively, she could have those things, but she decided as she learned about clean fasting to have those within that 6 hours. And that's what she's referencing to when she says an 18-6. And so now, are you a coffee drinker today? Were you drinking once you removed the stevia? Did you keep drinking coffee? Or are you more like a
Yeah.
sparkling water or?
So I have one black coffee in the morning,
Okay.
and I do it when my youngest goes down for her first nap, and that's
Okay.
sort of like I have a black coffee without anything, and then I'm just clean, just water in the morning, black coffee, and then yeah, I'm sort of in just plain water and black coffee in the morning, and then in the evening I'm sort of sparkling water. I find that that's sort of it's a bit
Treat.
of a treat in a
Mm-hmm.
way, and I always put it
Mm-hmm.
in a nice glass on a, and it just makes it a bit more special, because I had to sort of my routine in the evenings was just get the chocolate out and get, it was like a whole another
Right.
meal, like after the kids go to bed, because oh, I got them to bed and now I have alone time and now I'm gonna eat, thinking I was treating myself, but I wasn't. uh, So sparkling water is for me in the evening, and that's it. Really, I'm not really a big tea drinker. I have green tea occasionally in the morning, but I just love coffee. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like you.
yeah,
I buy tea. I buy some green tea and I have decaf and regular just like on hand. But I
yeah,
definitely am more of a coffee fan. I
yeah.
was sharing the other day that I challenged my husband to do black coffee with me.
Oh
And
yeah,
he's like, and we used to love cream in our coffee. Like that was like our like ritual. He would bring it to me in the morning. I loved it, you know.
yeah.
And he told me, well, if I can't have cream in my coffee bet, I'm giving up coffee. So he flat out gave up coffee.
No
Like
way.
this man, I'm
Wow.
like, I'm impressed, but
Well,
he's given it up. And you know what? He didn't have a ton of weight to lose, but just by
good.
giving up his coffee with cream, he dropped like the kind of that belly, just those few pounds that he was kind of
Mm,
carrying around here. So
mm-hmm.
even for someone that doesn't have a ton of weight to lose, clean fasting can really be that difference maker. And you kind of don't,
Absolutely.
you don't think it will be because you're like, well, it's just a
Well, it's
little
just a
cream in my
little
coffee.
bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then,
it just disturbs your insulin enough for you to get you in and out of, and it's just sort of a
right.
in and out of the fasting situation, and you just wanted to leave it undisturbed.
Exa-
Like, yeah,
exactly. It's very interesting. And most of us wouldn't have believed it if we wouldn't have tried it for ourselves. So that's why we're always like,
yeah.
try it, try it. We promise we're not telling you
Please
lies.
try it. Yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
what was your starting weight, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh yeah. So I was my starting weight was just shy of 300 pounds,
Okay. And
and
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, yeah. So I'm 5'9".
Okay.
I'm 5'9". I'm quite tall. I'm a big woman. Like I've a lot of muscle just naturally. So I was just shy of 300 pounds, and now I'm 180. So I've lost
Wow.
115, something like that.
And when
Yeah,
was the date you started? So when did you start? Do you remember kind
August.
of
I
August?
remember because I breastfed my youngest for 2 months, and then after I stopped breastfeeding, I started fasting because I didn't want to do the two at the same time, because I was already not milking enough, and that wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have worked for me, definitely not.
Right.
So yeah, after I stopped breastfeeding, that's when I started. So August, and now we are in June. So it's almost a year now.
Wow, but
Yeah,
I mean, that is some
yeah,
major differences in what I believe is a very short amount of time, or because you look at most of
yeah.
our journeys, and I always tell people that, we are
We're
worthy
all
of more than
different.
fast. We're all different, and not
Yeah.
everything happens fast, but that does sometimes it kind of like even blow you away that you have
Yeah.
lost 120 pounds in not even a year's time?
Yeah, it does blow my mind, and this is why I wanted to start sharing my story, because
Mhm.
I'm just like anyone else. I'm not some health guru that is, has been in the gym 5 times a week, or I'm a busy mom, and I was able to make this happen, and in middle of a lockdown. And I just think, me. At this, when I started, I needed to see someone like me today. Do you know what I mean? I needed to see, okay, she's done this and she's a bit like me, so I can do this as well.
And
So
that to me is just like, it makes me kind of want to cry because it's
I
so,
know.
you know, you are going to give someone who is feeling pretty hopeless, feeling like they're at a
Hmm.
dead end,
Yeah,
and you are doing sharing something with them that if you can do it in lockdown
yeah,
with 3 kids, 4 and under. You had just
hmm,
had a baby. There's a
yeah,
lot of stress going on in your life. And you mentioned, you weren't doing some crazy, exercise routine. So you're doing 18/6. When did you start opening your window? So what is your typical, and when I say open your window for the newbies out there, that
eating
means once you
window.
started
Yeah,
eating. When did you start
yeah.
eating?
So I would usually do a lunch at 12 o'clock.
Okay.
And then I would have it closed by 6 in the evening. So I would do sort of a light lunch, and then I would do a full on dinner.
Okay.
And I decided, because I've done sort of keto in the past. Like, keto is good. I responded quite well to keto, actually, sort of high fat and low
Mhm.
carb. But I decided to not do that because I wanted to see if I can just eat normal home cooked food, and I wanted to be, I wanted to eat the same thing as my children and my partner. um
Mhm.
so I'd love, I think it's more important what you open your window with, because what
Yes.
everyone asks me, so what do you eat, what do you that's a question I get every single day, probably through my social media. And so I always sort of try to open my window with something that's high in protein and high in fat, because I feel
Yes.
like that's what the body needs after a long fast. And I feel like the body is going to be more satisfied with that. And I find if you open your window after a long fast with something that's sort of overly processed, especially overly processed carbs, if it
Yes.
comes in a packaging that makes noise, you're not at the right track, you know. Um,
Mhm.
it's really easy to overdo that, because the body,
Right.
your body needs stuff, when you open your window, and the body's just going to keep asking for more and more and more if you don't give it proper nutrients like protein and fat.
Yes.
So that's sort of what I focus on, opening with eggs, sometimes a bit of bacon, avocado, Parmesan cheese, olive oil. I sort of focus on these. And also because it's just easy to prepare, especially with a lot
Right.
of kids, I can just do loads of scrambled eggs and everyone loves it.
Right.
And so I usually open with eggs, and then my dinner is normal home cooked meals: lasagna, spaghetti bolognese, um, like chicken and mashed potatoes, and just these normal like home cooked meals. And what I find, when you fast, it's really hard to overdo it, because your body will tell you straight away when it's had enough. Whereas before, you could sort of eat and eat and eat, and then like your body lets you know a bit too late. Does that make sense? Yeah. So so I just ate normal food. Took I sort of save sweet treats and alcohol for special occasions, and because I just find they just simply don't help me on this journey. And especially with the alcohol, I find, especially where we've been in lockdown, no restaurants have been open, no bars have been open. There's, I'm not the person to sit at home and drink. I need something more fun to be happening, like a wedding or something, or friends getting together and there's a glass of wine. And like, I just don't find, sitting on the sofa with a glass of wine is it's not enough for me to have a drink, like. So no, exactly. And I was on this health journey, and I sort of, I'm just going to put it to the side. I don't need to have a glass of wine. It doesn't help me. So it's not the wine or the glass itself that it's sort of the days after that you don't feel energetic. You feel sort of tired, and you're craving, junk food and all that. And yeah, so I decided to just put it to the side and get this, journey going. And yeah.
So, probably a question of most of our listeners is going to be, okay, Margaret, you, in less than a year, you've lost over 120 pounds. You've shared what you're
Mhm.
eating. Now tell us about your rigorous exercise plan you must have had to accomplish this in such a short amount of time. Tell us about your
Yeah.
exercise during lockdown.
Right. So when I started this journey, I thought, okay, like we have to sort of figure out some sort of a schedule with the kids so I can go to the gym 3 times a week, or do it how you're supposed to do it. If you're going to lose weight, you need to go to the gym. That's something that everyone says and thinks. But then lockdown hit us, and everything was closed and remained closed for, I think there was like maybe 2 weeks there, over Christmas or something, that they opened a little bit. But yeah, all the gyms were closed. And I thought, okay, this is never going to work. I'm never going to
Right.
do this right. But I decided, okay, I'm going to do this fasting, and then I'll just do sort of what I can do, with 3 kids under the age of 4. And my life is quite active. It starts early in the morning, and it's done around 10 o'clock in the evening. So like, and it is active, obviously, having small kids. I started when I was, at the start, I was obviously very, very overweight, and it's hard to do exercise
Yes.
at that stage. And I honestly think it's crazy putting um that, like a really overweight person into a gym, and making them do squats and all. It's almost impossible to do when you're that weight. But it would have been for me. I can only speak
Yeah.
from my own experience. Um so what I did, I just started really light. Just did half an hour walks. Try to do it most days. You know how it is with a big family. You sometimes don't get to do these things, so it's okay. Like, I never put any. I went into this. I didn't put loads of pressure on. I have to do this, every single day. But I went outside, for a half an hour walk when I could, and I started to really love that. And then that half an hour turned into 45 minutes. Once the weight was sort of coming off, it became easier and easier. And then that 45 minutes turned into an hour. And that's all I did. Honestly, I did not do anything else. And people don't believe that. People have, said, like, you must have had a weight loss surgery. You must have done these crazy exercise. I honestly didn't. Just fasting alone it could be enough, and going outside and moving your body is sort of a result of the fasting, because you get more energy, you start to sleep better, therefore you want to sort of go out and move your body, and not the other way around, where you're sort of dragging yourself off the sofa, like, oh, I have to go and move, do something. And so it's sort of, yeah, it was a result of the fasting, really, to that. I wanted to go and move, and now I love it. I love getting outside. We have a really big, sort of outdoorsy area, yeah, like a huge forest next to my house. So it's really nice just getting outside, listening to a podcast, listening to some music, and it's sort of my alone time as well. Getting out of the house, getting fresh air, and it's managing the stress as well. Like it's stressful being a mom, like and that hour to myself going for a walk is the best thing ever, and it's not to lose weight. It's more like mental,
Yeah, like
to sort of
mental meditation type.
stress
Yeah, stress
relief.
relief.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
that's all I did. Yeah.
I think there's a few things that could be an interesting light bulb moment for some other moms out there is that, certain forms of exercise are stress too. So if you're
I think so.
really stressed at home and you
Hmm.
are going and putting a lot of stress on your body through exercise, I am not
Yeah.
saying exercise is bad at all, but
No, it's really good,
it's really
obviously.
good,
Yeah.
but you need to find this balance where I think Margaret's hitting on something. She is
Hmm.
choosing a way to move her body that is not just giving her movement, it's getting her vitamin D. She's getting outside, which I believe is extremely important. It's giving her
Yeah.
peace and almost like a meditative time, which is going to reduce your stress and your cortisol levels, which is also
Absolutely.
going to help you lose weight and feel better and want to move more. So I'm all about running and lifting weights and doing things
Oh
too.
yeah.
But I
Oh yeah.
guess what I think you're onto here is that that doesn't have to always be the best path for everybody. And
No.
for a lot of moms and a lot of people out there that are already stressed and getting a lot of inbound, mom, need, help,
Hmm.
help, help. It's
Yeah.
important to find what you've found, not only
Yeah.
from a movement and exercise, but I hear the peace that it's giving you. I sense
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also for where I live at the moment, I would have needed to drive to a sort of a gym for half an hour drive, and then get myself into the gym and get myself ready and do all these complicated things, and then drive back. It's 2 hours out of my day. It's
Right.
a lot. Instead of just leaving my house, going into the woods, and then coming back, and it's only an hour, and I think that's really it's just I think it's so much more sustainable long term
Right.
to do something like that. It
Doable,
worked for
sustainable.
me.
Yes.
Doable, yes, it's so much more doable, and it's not such a thing, exactly, you know what I mean.
Completely. And it was interesting. Dr. Naiman, he believes this completely that the whole theory that everyone needs to go to a gym for every day for 2 hours is unsustainable. And people
It
can
is.
only do that for so long. And so I just love
Life's gonna
this.
happen,
Life's going to happen. And I think you found
yeah.
something, like you said, that is not just doable, but sustainable for your whole life. And you can always
Yeah.
incorporate more movement if needed. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love
I
that.
totally want to now that I've lost all the weight. It's sort of I'm sort of oh, I'd love to go maybe do a Pilates
Yeah.
class, and strengthening. But I think I need more sort of calm sort of type of exercise because my life is so hectic
Yes.
with the kids, and I think that's like you were saying that moms are putting so much pressure on having everything perfect at home, and then getting into like I don't know, like a crazy fitness class. What do you call them? Like CrossFit or whatever, and it's sort of like weightlifting, and then you go in. It's like a military training in a way, isn't it? So I think, and I think a lot of women start something like that, and then it gets to be too much and they stop doing it, and they sort of tear themselves apart for not carrying on with it, and I think start small and then maybe add on it.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. Mm,
I think you're really onto something. And I guess what I just hear from you is that it doesn't always have to be exercise first. It doesn't. And I
that's
hear
it.
that
Yeah.
over and over, that
Yeah.
from my guests, that a lot of times,
Yeah.
no, it's kind of fixing our eating issues. It's our fasting that kind of solves
Yeah.
that.
Getting
So
to the core of the
yes,
problem.
yes,
You know, where's the overeating coming from? Are you managing your stress with
hmm,
food?
right,
You know, are you uh, especially with my sort of late night eating, and you're sort of watching TV and you're not even thinking about what you put in, and all of a sudden the bag of sweets is gone and you're sort of like, what happened? You know, and it's sort of um, what I find with IF, it really taught me mindful eating, and to sit down and appreciate the food, and the food tastes so good. Do you find
yes,
that as well after you start to, you know,
so good.
simple things like a banana, and you're like, oh, wow, that's tastes like cake. Do you know, like it's just, it's ridiculous. You know, people are going to listen to this to be like, oh, come on, banana doesn't taste like cake, but it, you know, it's just something your taste buds just light up for the most simple things. And yeah, I think it's amazing how it's just taught me so many different things, that you know, to appreciate my food, sit down and give the food my attention, and enjoy it really, you know,
Yes,
and
yes.
yeah,
By
yeah,
taking breaks, I think what happens is our true taste for food comes back, and we
hmm,
appreciate things that we may not have before. Like if after a fast, I might
hmm,
appreciate a much healthier food and think it tastes great than before
that's
when I was
it, yeah.
snacking all the time. Every that same
You're like
food might just,
salad, oh,
ugh,
you know,
you know,
yeah, I
and
know,
you're so much more appreciative. Same with, like, someone gave a really good idea that if they want to appreciate black coffee, just give up coffee for a few weeks, and guess what? You'll think black coffee
yeah,
is great. Like
that's it,
there
yeah.
is an ability to kind of change our taste, change our habits. So
Hmm.
you've told us so much about what your eating looks like, what your movement looks like. What have been some other kind of non-scale victories that you
Hmm.
attribute to your fasting and your weight loss?
The biggest one, which was such a surprise for me, was my allergies and my asthma that I've been living with for uh, like like since I remember. Like I remember getting allergy, sort of getting sick from getting allergies when I was like 11 or 10 years old, and it would be like, for any sort of animals, it would be like a seasonal hay fever type of allergies, and I would get triggered and get an asthma reaction as well, and I always had to have sort of an inhaler, and tablets and nasal spray, eye drops, everything on hand, because when I think a lot of people don't realize, loads of people have seasonal allergies, and it's sort of like, oh, you just go to the pharmacy and you get tablets and you're fine. Everyone has this sort of thing, and it's just sort of, but it's it really affects your life. It affects your breathing. It affects your sleep, when you're suffering from it. And since I started fasting, I have not needed to take any form of allergy tablets or sprays, or even, which is unbelievable for me. And when I sort of started to notice, like, my allergies are not that bad. What is this? And I sort of started to research, and it has to do so much with inflammation in the body, where your inflammation decreases when you start fasting, and the inflammation must have been causing so much of these problems for me, which is insane. I had just accepted that this was just my life, and this is, what I have, and
Yes.
it's just, you know,
It's kind of a
yeah,
miracle, really. I mean, to think that you
it
were dealing
is.
with that, and then does it make you think, like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people out there that are walking around inflamed and they don't think
Hmm.
there's anything they can do about it. They just think
Yeah, they're just like, oh, this
this
is
is
just
just
me then.
normal. This
Yeah.
is just, I
Yeah.
mean, think of all the people that really struggle with allergies and asthma, and it seems
Hmm.
much more than even 10 years ago. I feel like it's just getting
Hmm.
like so many people talk about it, and you wonder
Yeah.
how many could solve it by fasting.
Exactly. It really makes you wonder if this could be sort of a life changing for so many people. You know,
Yes.
just
Oh,
to be, and also just being on these medication, they really make you so drowsy as well as a side effect of, even though you, like for me, when I used to get like sort of non-drowsy tablets for allergies, it would still make me drowsy, and it's just annoying. Like you spend the whole summer and you just like you're a bit like, oh, tired from taking medication, and it's so
yeah.
annoying.
No,
Yeah.
it is. And I think that this is so cool. And I'm so anxious because you're the first guest that has mentioned this as an NSV.
Oh,
So we've
right.
had many
Okay.
other non-scale victories, but
Yeah.
this is one of the first. So I
Yeah.
love that. So what do you think are the main things you want other moms, other people, other
Hmm.
Margarets out there to hear? What are the things that if your message could be shouted from the rooftops, what
Mm.
is that message you want the world to know about fasting and your health journey?
Yeah, I've really, I think a lot of people overcomplicate things and think it's this, this can really simplify your life. That's what I want people to understand. Fasting has really simplified my life so much, and all this decision making around food, it's unreal, and making good decisions around food is, adds on top of all that. And I think. Um, like I want people not to be afraid of, take control of their health and not accept that this is just, oh, this has always been me. My parents are overweight and I'm going to be overweight. This is just me. Like this is just how it's going to be for me. And I think, it starts, it starts and ends with you, and you have to get into the driver's seat and
Yes,
take control of your life and your health. And you
I
can,
agree.
and you so can. I thought I wouldn't have been able to do this, but it happened for me, so it can happen for other people.
Yeah, I think too, what the misunderstanding around it is, I think, a few things, but number one, that it's going to complicate your life. And I love that you share
Hmm.
for people that are in your situation, young children, busy life, uh,
Hmm.
you know, whether we want to say it is stressful. Um,
It is,
it
yeah.
you
It's wonderful as
it's
well.
wonderful. And we're not,
Yeah.
by saying it's
It's all the
stressful, it's
emotions.
all of the things, everything intertwined,
Yes.
right? But that
Yeah.
is what is so cool, is that I think we need more tools out there that simplify our life, and then
Yeah.
therefore they're doable and we actually stick with them. And I think so
Yeah.
many tools out there, there's a lot of tools that might work for you. At the end of the day, there's a
Yeah.
lot of tools that might work, but many of them are not sustainable. Many of them are not something that we're going to be able to really, at the end of the day, stick with. And I think what Margaret's sharing with you is a tool that is simplified her life. She's not obsessing about food. She's not obsessing about snacking. And then the other misunderstanding that I'd love for you to talk about a little bit is that fasting is starving yourself, and fasting, you don't eat as well. How would
Hmm.
you, what would you challenge someone? Because I've seen your cooking, Margaret, and it is beautiful.
Hmm.
And I don't see any
I'm a
starving on those
serious
plates.
foodie.
Yes.
I'm a serious foodie, and that's sort of what got me into this mess in the first place. Like I'm to a point where I've studied cooking, not to a
Uh-huh.
chef level or anything like that. I've always been like, I've loved baking. I love cooking. I love, I read recipes, at night, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to try that. I'm just, I love everything with cheese, and I love everything that's sort of crunchy, and yeah, I eat like this is healed my relationship with food, because it's a complicated relationship when you're so overweight. You love food, but food is sort of your enemy at the same time. And before, when I was so overweight, I'd be cooking, and I'd be like, oh, I better not put cream into this sauce. Maybe I shouldn't put so much cheese in that, and because I'm so overweight, I need to be careful of what I
Watch
eat.
this. Yeah.
And it's a really complicated relationship with food. And I feel like IF has healed that relationship, and I can just relax, and I can just enjoy my food fully, because it's in a certain time frame, and I just make sure I don't go all out of that time frame. That way I have control. Um,
Right.
and food is anything I want. But the thing is, like, I don't overeat anymore. My body lets me know straight away, oh, you've had enough of this. Like before, I used to be able to maybe eat 5 or 6 potatoes with a meal, but now I can only have two, because
Right.
my body doesn't want more than that,
Right.
you know.
I love
So
that.
yeah. So I eat anything. Like we cook pizza sometimes. Like I get the kids involved, and we make it from scratch.
Yes.
I know exactly what's going into the dough. Like, and I do it in the morning, and I let it rise. For the evening time, and the pizza is not some sort of diet miracle pizza, that it's just normal. Normal food, and nothing is low fat or low carb or anything like that. I enjoy exactly what I want to eat, and that's it. And that's why this has worked for me, because I'm not saying, oh, I can't have this, I can't have that. I am leaving out sort of street treats and alcohol, but my body doesn't crave that so much,
Yes.
and so that's okay. Like I don't feel deprived. It used to be really hard to go into a shop and see, when you get to the tills, and you see all the sweets, and it used to be really hard for me. I used to be like, okay, I'm not gonna buy this bag of
Right. Like,
Maltesers,
yes.
just like it's sort of like trying to go. But now I look at it and I'm like, don't need that. It's
Right.
really interesting, mind switch that has happened with fasting. And yeah, it's yeah, if the food is anything, like, yeah, look, I put cheese on everything, I put cream in everything, I put butter in everything, and I find when you do eat this sort of satiating foods full of fat,
Mhm.
full of protein, it makes your fasting easier.
Yes.
If you fast long hours like I do, I started with 18 hours. I'm sort of in 20 now, because it has sort of evolved into that now. I do sort of 24 at the moment.
Okay.
When you fast for such long hours, and then you're going to restrict your food in that small time frame, it's you're not going to, and you're sort of not enjoying it fully. You'll feel deprived. That's how I feel. That's
Yes.
I just know myself at this point. So yeah, I eat anything.
You know what I find interesting is that I just remember never quite feeling full or satiated before. And I thought
Yes,
and I don't know if it
always
was always
hungry. Yeah,
hungry. I was always hungry. And I don't
and never
know
satisfied.
if that was a blood sugar problem, if that was something with my
Yeah, up and down, up and
hormones.
down. Mm.
I don't know, but I will tell you that has been so freeing that I am not starving all the time, and every 2 hours I'm not thinking about what's my next snack? Where are the nuts? Where are the celery sticks? Where's my string cheese? And if you'll notice,
Yeah.
like all of those things that I mentioned are pretty healthy. But my struggle was less with like the end of the day, like overeating. My struggle was I just don't think my body ever got a break. I think I was
No.
constantly consuming and consuming.
Hmm.
And so that's where sometimes the person that says, yeah, but Margaret, I eat pretty healthy. I eat pretty healthy. And I'm still
But
stuck
you're eating healthy maybe all day, and you're
all
snacking maybe
day,
all day,
all
and
day.
you're on this roller coaster with your insulin, and
Mm-hmm.
it's up and down, up and down, up and down. You never get a break. You never get
Yes.
a break.
So
Yeah.
now you're like a 20 and 4. What
Hmm.
when you do you ever feel like frustrated on your journey? Have you ever felt like stuck? And if you have, what's the advice you would give someone who might feel like that too? Is there anything you do, or do you just kind of
Mm.
say, nope, I'm just going to continue doing what I'm doing? Uh,
Hmm.
this is for the long term. It's a lifestyle, or
Hmm.
is there tweaks that you make when you have felt like that?
I think I've not had any sort of like, oh, I can't keep doing this. I've never had that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think um, because this has sort of simplified my life so much. I love that. I love sort
Yeah.
of all the factors that this gives me. It simplifies my life, and I'm enjoying really really good food. And I'm sort of looking forward to opening my window. Oh, like I'm sort of thinking, oh, I'm going to open a window with this today, and this and this, and you're sort of planning it, and you need to look forward to what you eat. I
Right.
think that's a key thing. Um, and I don't think there's any sort of major problems that I've had on the I'm trying to think. I don't think so. This has been really overwhelming how easy this has been. Maybe at first I was sort of hungry at the beginning, and I was
Mm-hmm.
sort of white knuckling maybe at the beginning, but it comes in waves. It goes back down, and I think keep hydrated I think is my number one advice.
That's such good
If you have some,
advice. Yeah.
just keep. Yeah, and I think I really try to do a
Skip.
whole lead. Yes,
Mm.
I try to do a whole liter before noon, and then a whole liter in the afternoon. I think that's really important. And
I love that.
electrolytes, I think it's really important.
Yes.
That's actually if you feel like you're struggling on your journey, you might just need a bit of electrolytes, and that could be as simple as pink Himalayan salt under your tongue, or you can buy these unflavored electrolytes that you can have in your fasting hours. I really like those ones. And then you can have sort of the flavored ones. They come in all these sort of different flavors, like strawberry, and you add it to your water or your sparkling water. I think that I feel like that makes my fasting also quite easy.
Yeah.
Is hydrating in the right way. If you're just sort of drinking and drinking, drinking plain water, you might be just flushing yourself out. And you need those salts. They need to sort of go hand in hand. Yeah, so I'd say electrolytes would be really good if someone is struggling.
Yeah,
That's
I notice
yeah.
if someone complains to me that they have a headache, if they're
Hmm.
just not feeling great, it to me,
Yeah.
um, I find it's usually they need a little bit more electrolytes. They need some more
Hmm.
sodium or magnesium or
Yeah.
potassium. And like
Yeah.
Margaret so nicely pointed out, you can get those on Amazon as long as they're the
Yeah.
unflavored kind. You can have those when you're fasting. Or
Hmm.
the other thing I find is that sometimes women don't eat enough. Like they need to eat
Mm.
more. And so they're not feeling good because they actually aren't
Yeah.
eating enough protein, or they're not getting enough good
Yeah.
fats and good things in their diet, that they're eating too little. And I find that
Yeah.
that can be, men don't struggle with that as much. I find they're more balanced,
No.
but women
Yeah.
can that can be an error sometimes. I notice they think, well, they're so used to that diet mentality that
Yes.
they've kind of, the pendulum swings too far.
Hmm.
So this has been
Yeah,
so helpful. And I know your story. We could just keep going and I could listen to your
I know.
beautiful blended accent
Oh,
forever. I
I love
love,
your accent as well.
oh, I love when someone is from a country and then goes live somewhere else and they have the beauty of their
Yeah.
original accent and then the blend. So you've got your beauty of the your time, your homeland of Iceland, you've got your time in London, and now you've
Oh,
got the Irish coming
it's
through.
oh dear, yeah. It's like my Icelandic friends. They're like, "You sound so Irish" when I'm speaking on social media, and but then my Irish friends are like, "Oh, you sound a bit English," and like it's all over the place. Basically, I
Oh,
sound ridiculous,
no, you
basically.
do not. You sound beautiful. I could listen to you
Oh,
all
thank you.
day. And I just have loved my time with you. And I know you
Oh,
kind
me
of,
too. I love that we were able to do this.
I know, me too. And I hope we get to connect again. And I know you kind
Please,
of share
yeah.
your advice that it's, kind of never too late. Don't accept that just
Don't
because you're a
accept that
mom.
this is your
Yeah.
life if you're not happy.
Yeah.
Don't accept, yeah, absolutely.
And is there anything else you would like to say before we close today that I didn't ask you about or that you want to share?
I think we covered everything. I can't think of anything at the moment, but I think yeah, I just want people to take control of their health, and no one's going to do this for you. You have to dig deep within and deal with your emotions. Don't eat your emotions, and it's actually sometimes we just need to face the emotions, let them stay for a little bit, and then we can let them go. Sometimes it's as simple as that. But
Yes.
if we don't deal with them head on and we just eat our emotions, it can cause a bigger problem. So
And
I think that's maybe, yeah.
would you say that with this fasting and health journey and kind of deciding that you're in the driver's seat, can you say that all the other areas of your life have improved? Do you think that's
Oh,
a bold statement?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It has improved my life so much. And this is something I'm going to be doing forever. Like, this is part of my life now. And it's, yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where I want to leave it, is that there's a fear for so many of you out there because you're very unselfish giving people. You give to your children, your partner, your job, your community, and somewhere along the line maybe you have fallen down the priority list. Your health has fallen down the priority list. And I think what the message I want to keep sharing, the bold message that you can still be very much an unselfish, giving, wonderful person to your children, to your partner, to your job, to this world. But you can even do it that much better if your health is just a little bit more of a priority. And you're not being unselfish by doing that. And I think that is what Margaret's story is showing you, is that by putting herself in the driver's seat a little bit more on her health, she has improved all the other areas of her life and been able to give back more, not give back less.
Not less. Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better.
Oh, well, it's your story. It's what
Yeah.
you have shared with us today. So thank you, Margaret, for being here, and thank you
Thank you so much for
for
having
being
me.
so bold on your journey. We are so blessed to hear your journey, and I wish you and your family
Thank
all the
you.
best.
Thank you. Same to you. All the best.